Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and welcome to the mid-year freakout book tag or mid-year book freakout tag, whatever it's called. It's the mid-year tag that everybody does around this time. It is already toward the end of June. Yikes. But here is a little bit of a wrap-up of my first 6 months of this year. Some of the books that I want to highlight. This does have, I think, 13 questions, and then I added a couple more of my own questions at the end. Question number 1 is the best book you've read so far in 2024. This is going to go to a book that I read just last month, but it just released this month on June 4th, so you can go check it out if it sounds interesting, and that is In the Hour of Crows by Dana Elmendorf. So this was a surprise to me. Well, it wasn't a surprise because, I requested the ARC from NetGalley because of this cover and the synopsis, thinking I would like it, but it surprised me just how much I liked it. So this is a murder mystery with some witchy vibes to it. And in this we are following this young woman named Weatherly who has grown up in this very dysfunctional, abusive family where they all have some sort of pagan witchy ability to them. And Weatherly is a death talker. She can talk the death out of the dying. And her abusive grandmother uses her ability for her own gain. And so Weatherly has grown up and she's decided that she's going to stop doing this. But suddenly her cousin has been murdered. And her cousin left her a very cryptic clue as to what went on the day of her murder. And so Weatherly is trying to piece together what happened to her cousin, get justice for her cousin, and along the way she is discovering some family secrets that her cousin knew, her grandma knew, and a lot of people around her knew, but she did not. And she finds help in this young man named Rook, who is sometimes a crow that Weatherly once talked the death out of, and they have a very meaningful relationship that takes some unexpected turns. This just surprised me overall of how emotionally involved I got with these characters. I loved, of course, the gothic witchy vibes of it. I loved the family drama that went on and how the secrets were all unfolded. I loved the atmosphere of this. This had so many quotes in it that just resonated with me. And by the end of this book, I was crying. So, best book so far, 6 stars. Question 2 is the best sequel you've read this year. I am going to give that to The Wolf King by Atlee Wykes, which is another 6-star read for me. This is book 2 in the Inkwater series, which is an adult fantasy romance series that I don't ever see anybody talking about. Oh my god, what is happening to my voice? This whole world is comprised of wolf shifters, fae, witches, a bunch of different mythological and folkloric people. And in this, we are following Lowen and Crystalline. Lowen is the new alpha of his wolf pack after he has killed his very abusive father, and Crystalline is an ice fae. And they are put into an arranged marriage as an alliance to strengthen the bonds between the fae and the wolves, because they were once at war together. And Crystalline is forced into this marriage by her father, who wants her to spy on Lowen's pack, get a lay of the land, get a feel for the setup, make sure that they aren't going to do anything that contends with his plans for the fae. So they are attracted to each other, but they go into this marriage and they don't really have any desire to spend time with one another or get to know each other. But when they return to his village, Crystalline starts to see the man that he is and how he is trying so hard to be the best alpha for his pack and do what's right for them because their previous alpha wasn't. And Lowen starts seeing that Crystalline has much more power than she has led people to believe she has. So he is trying to help her feel confident in her abilities and really learn to control her power. And through them, very slowly getting to know one another, they form an attraction, a relationship, and it goes from there. I was going through a reading slump and this book pulled me out of it. I loved the characters from the first book, but I think this book was much better written. The relationship dynamics were much more fleshed out, and the characters I feel had a little bit more depth to them. So I definitely give this to the best sequel. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I've been doing really good on keeping up with the new releases that I've been interested in, but one that I have yet to read, it's on hold at my library, but I just haven't, I'm 74th in line for it, is A Fragile Enchantment. This kind of intrigued me, but then it also kind of didn't, because it's sort of like a Regency romance, and those typically aren't things I enjoy. But I've heard a lot of people talk about how cozy and how sweet and whimsical this story is, and so I was intrigued to read it, and that is what drew me to putting it on hold at my library. So one of these months I will get it read. Question 4 is, what is one of your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year? And I am just going to link this video down below. You can go check that out. It gives you a plethora of books that I am anticipating. I don't have one that just sticks out to me as, oh my god, I'm so excited for this. All of the books mentioned in that video I am excited to read. Question 5 is, what has been your biggest disappointment? Now, this isn't necessarily the worst book you've read. It's a book that you had high hopes for and it just didn't deliver. And for that, I am going to say Bride of the Sea by Emma Hamm. So I enjoyed all of the other books in this Otherworld series. In fact, they're sitting right here. I even got Bride of the Sea. I pre-ordered it before I went to a Polycon because I hadn't read that book yet. I was only on like book 4 by the time I pre-ordered. So I thought I was gonna love it because I loved all the rest of them. And this book just sucked. I gave it 2 stars. I did not like it. I thought the male main character was annoying. He was stupid. He treated her like an object, and he was just, this is gonna sound bad, but he was poor, okay? And I couldn't understand why this girl wanted to be with him, because it's not like he was poor and could offer her anything else. It's not like he treated her kindly. It's not like he protected her all that much. But she was just so in love with this poor dumbass that I was just like, why? Out of all of the human men that you could fall in love with, you choose this poor dumbass. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And she was just very naive in that sense too, that there were other people who she could have fallen in love with. She had options, but she once again chose this poor man who treated her like shit. And it's just like, if you're gonna pick somebody who's gonna treat you like shit, why don't you go for the rich man? At least he can offer you financial stability, but instead you go for somebody who treats you like shit and who is poor? I couldn't deal with it. Question 6 is, what has been the biggest surprise so far? And for that, I am going to link this vlog. And in that, I read West by Lizzie Ford. This is a book that I picked up completely free on one of those stuff your Kindle day things. So I didn't have the highest of hopes for it. And this started out as a 3-star read, but by the end of it, it was almost a 5-star. That's how much this book surprised me. I did purchase the sequel to it. I haven't read it yet, but I purchased it because I enjoyed that book so much. But you can go check out that vlog if you want to see like why it was such a surprise for me. Question 7 is, who has become a new favorite author of yours this year? Circling back to question number 5 of biggest disappointment, this has also become one of my new favorite authors. And that is Emma Hamm. It is the first year that I have picked up her books. I started with the Otherworld series. This is not the first book in that series. It's just the book that I liked the most, and I love this cover, so I'm holding it up. But this is a fantasy romance that is centered around Celtic mythology, which I absolutely fell in love with. I did read all of the books in Emma Hamm's Otherworld series, and I do plan on reading more of her backlist. I just haven't yet. But she's definitely one that has become a new favorite author to me. Question 8 is, who has become your newest fictional crush this year? And it took me a long time to think of somebody because most of my fictional crushes have been from previous years, and I'm pretty loyal to them. But after considering it for a while, I am going to go with Raven Yu from One Dark Window. He is a young man who has ties to the royal family in this series, and he ends up sort of in an arranged relationship with our main character, Elspeth. And they have to pretend to be together so that she can help him find some cards that will restore their world to a more peaceful situation. And I loved his protective nature. I loved the slow burn romance in here. He's one of those dark, brooding boys who I tend to like. Question 9 is, who has become your new favorite character? And I'm just gonna pop this back up again and say Elspeth Spindle. I like her name, okay? And I liked her so much that I've done several cosplays of her. If I can, I will insert one of my reels that I created cosplaying her. She has a nightmare in her head. When she was younger, she touched a nightmare card, which is a tarot card, and it sucked that nightmare into her. And so she has this entity that has the ability to sort of take over her form, and it protects her at times. It gives her the ability to protect herself. And she's trying to find a way to get rid of him. So she has to team up with Raven Yu from the past question to try and track down these nightmare cards because she can sense them, and they need to collect all of them to get rid of the blight on this kingdom. Question 10 is a book that made you cry, and I am going to swing back to my best book of the year, In the Hour of Crows. I can't really think of any other book this year that has made me cry, which is a surprise because I am a weepy little woman, okay? I tend to cry rather easily. And I think there have been a couple books that have made me like teary and have like choked me up, but this book, like, tears were literally rolling down my face. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. For this one, I am going to say Wild Scottish Rose by Trisha O'Malley. This is book 4 in her Enchanted Highlands series, which is a paranormal romance that takes place in Scotland about different women who end up working at this castle in this little town called Loren Bray. And they all have to come together as sort of this Knights at the Round Table to protect this artifact and to control the Kelpies that tend to frighten and hurt people who try to reach said artifact. And in this one, we follow Shona and Owen. Shona is a florist, and she has this cottagecore vibe about her, and she wants to do something more meaningful with her life other than create flower arrangements for other people's weddings. So she takes the chance to refurbish her little cottage and rent it out to people, and one of the people she ends up renting it out to is Owen, who has been in town for his friend's wedding, and he ends up crossing paths with Shona, and he decides to stay in Loren Bray after an accident happens, and he gets to know her better. The things that made me laugh in this book were the side characters, the little creatures. There are gnomes in here called Nora and Norman with silent G's, and they were just so freaking cute. I listened to the audiobook of this, and hearing their voices, it just made me smile. Also, there's this cute little hedgehog in here and his hedgehog army, and it was absolutely stinking adorable. Question 12 is, what is the most beautiful book you have accumulated this year, whether you bought it or gifted it, whatever. For this, I am going to go with Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Pornack. Look at this cover. You see the details in this? Like, my camera's not going to do it justice. It sort of shimmers. I don't know if my camera's catching the shimmer on that, but I absolutely think this is stunning. I love the spread of it. It gives the vibes of this book, the details, and it's just so freaking pretty. And this is not a special edition. This is just the regular standard US copy of this. Question 13 are, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? I want to say the only books that I really need to read by the end of the year are any ARCs that I have and any book club picks that I have. So for July, I know my book club pick is Daughter of the Blood. I need to read that. For August, it is The Weaver and the Witch Queen, so I'm gonna have to read that. Any future books that we decide to read for the Black Hat Book Coven, I will need to check out as well. So there's not too many that I need to read, but those are a few. These last 4 questions are the additional questions that I added just because I wanted to answer them. Question 14 is, what is your favorite video that you have uploaded? I had to go back and look to see which ones have been my favorite, and I think my favorite video, it may not have been my most viewed video, it may not have been, you know, spectacular in a lot of ways, but that is going to be my Share the Booktube love tag that I created. I am really proud of the questions I created for that video, the concept of it, which is just shouting out booktubers that fall into a certain category. This time around when I did it and I got other people to do it, it was to shout out booktubers who had under 5,000 subscribers. So I loved the questions I created. I loved the editing that I did on that video. And if you would like to do this tag and shout out some booktubers, you don't have to do it under 5,000 subscribers. That's just what I chose to do. You could come up with your own theme. You could be like shouting out women booktubers, men booktubers, booktubers with a disability, booktubers between 10,000 and 20,000. Make up your own thing with it, go with it, tag me in it. I'd love to see it. Question 15 is, what has been your favorite video that somebody else has uploaded? There were 2 video like series that came to mind immediately for me. The first was from April, happily ever April. Hi, April. Her bookshelf revamp mini series that she did. I think it was like 3 videos long, maybe 4, I don't know. I will link like her entire bookshelf makeover series down below so you could go check it out. But I loved watching that. I was like, come on, April, I need the next video. Come on. I even messaged her. I'm like, could you just show me the final project, please? Because I can't wait for your last video. But I think she did an excellent job. She was so creative. Her bookshelves look really unique, and I am so proud of her for doing that. She is a pretty crafty woman in general, so like my pride for her probably doesn't mean much. But April, I am so proud of you for doing that. You did an amazing job, girl, and you deserve all the props for that. The other series that has just like sucked me in has been from Becca and the Books. She started this Shelve It or Scrap It series where she's trying to get her pile of books that are on the floor onto her shelves because she's out of shelf space. And I look forward to those new episodes every time she does one because I'm so interested to see, like, she always gives the books in the stacks a try, and so I'm always curious, is she going to DNF it? Is she going to end up liking it and need to shelve it? And then if she shelves it somewhere, she has to take a book off to make room for that book, and then she ends up adding and subtracting from her, and it's just a fascinating, fascinating series to watch. I will once again link all of her videos so far in that series down below so you can go check it out, but I have been loving that series and I look forward to more from her. Question 16 is my favorite witchy book of the year so far, and this comes in because of course I have my book club, the Black Hat Book Coven, where every month we just read a witchy book. The witchy book that has been my favorite wasn't even one that we read for my book club. I'm gonna throw it right on back to my best book of the year, In the Hour of Crows. While nobody in this book is a proclaimed witch, it has witchy vibes and the characters have abilities that correlate with witchcraft. And question 17 is, how many books have you read so far this year? And as of filming this video, I have read 73 books, which I haven't really been keeping track of how many books that I've been reading. I didn't set a reading goal this year or anything because I just wanted to read without having a constant reminder of, you're ahead by this many, you're behind by this many, this is what number you're at. So I haven't even been paying attention, so I literally had to look up and see, and it's 73, which is probably a lot less than previous years past, but I'm okay with that. Those were my answers to the mid-year book tag. Let me know down in the comments, do you know how many books you have read so far this year? But if you don't want to comment that, but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me just a book stack emoji, please? And until my next video, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see your mid-year book tag if you are a booktuber. If you're not, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!